Good evening and welcome to Nox Mente. Oh, I gotta turn it off. Screw that up. Alright, welcome to Nox Mente. Tonight's guest is Sonia Barrett. Sonia is known for her cutting-edge insights, most of which is supported by quantum physics. Theoretical physicist Dr. Amit Goswami refers to her as a true mystic. Her work bridges the gap between science and spirituality in a simplified format. She addresses the programming, beliefs, and concepts by which we have liked our lives both individually and collectively. Sonia is the author of the Holographic Canvas, The Fusing of Mind and Matter, A Journey of Possibilities, and 7-Day Program, Simple Ways to Step Outside Your Comfort Zone. She is also the publisher of the book Health, An Inside Job, and Outside Business. Sonia is the executive producer and of the award-winning documentary The Business of Disease. She is also the host and producer of the radio show The Expansion Zone with Sonia Barrett on KPFK 90.7 FM. Sonia has been a popular radio guest appearing on shows such as Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie, Red Ice Radio, Conscious Media Network, Gaia TV, and a whole host of others. Sonia, welcome to Nox Mente. Hold on, guys. Hold on. I don't know. It's not showing the audio. No.
Can you hear us in the chat?
Yeah, now it's working. Now I see it. Okay.
All right, cool.
Carry on.
Anyway,
Sorry.
yes. So I just want to say I'm having like my fan moment because I just adore your work. I think it's really important on the, I think the work you're doing is important. It's really given me a new shade to move within. I'm vibing with it. I feel it. It feels right to me. And so I don't have a lot of geeky fangirl moments, but I'm having it now, Sonia.
Oh gosh, what an honor. What an honor for sure. Yeah.
So yeah, let's just jump in. In the beginning of what you can remember as little Sonia in your world, what were the things that stick out for you now, the things that seemed important then? And so what we're kind of looking for is, you know, did you have a relationship with nature? What kind of cartoons did you like? You know, anything that really kind of is still vivid.
Yes, I love nature. I was a big fan of thunder and lightning. While other children would be scared of it, I loved thunder and lightning. That was one of my favorite pastimes. I mean, particularly in Jamaica, because you know, the first 13 years of my life, I lived in Jamaica. I was born there, and so I would sit on the veranda, and it would be raining and watching the lightning. And many times I would actually be under a tree.
Oh, yes.
And I am here to tell about it. I played with bugs. I love playing with ants, spiders, caterpillars, bees. I used to catch the bees in my hand on a Saturday morning, particularly on Saturday mornings. And I would put them in a jar with a little opening in the top and just watch them. What else did I love? Lizards. I was a very interesting child.
Yes, you were.
And I loved climbing trees, which I think most island kids do, but because I was by myself, I played by myself, and the bushes were the children when I would keep school. They were my buddies. And I was a total outside child. I could watch ants for hours and my imagination would run wild, you know, wondering if it was like a whole family. Do they go to bed? I mean, you know, my mind would like just go crazy like that, and I'd squat down and do that. You know, besides making mud pies and all of that, but I spent hours outside all the time.
Were you an only child?
Yeah, I grew up as an only child. I will say it that way. I grew up as an only child, and so yes, I spent many hours just with myself, hanging with myself, and so all of these things became my buddies. They became my friends.
Hmm.
Is basically what happened, and yeah, talking to everything, birds, everything. I was chatting with them.
I love that. I was by myself a lot too, and nature was very important. And bees in particular, I loved them. I still love the bees.
Yeah, I do too, except for they love me in a very interesting way now. They like to sting me.
Oh,
Look at-
wow.
Yeah, I don't have a bee phobia. When we're figuring that maybe is because there's a period there where I started to take in a lot of honey, and we don't
Yes.
know if that's what it was, but my husband thought that I was just exaggerating, because I hike a lot, so I kept telling him, I said, when I go hiking, they're literally they're chasing me. They're like coming after me. And so he went, finally went hiking with me one day and witnessed it. And he's like, "You're so telling the truth right now." Yeah. Then and so they've stung me on my head, they've stung me on my arm, on my foot. And the only thing I figure is that I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna look at it this way. Apparently they know that I need this, that I need,
Yes.
and that's kind of how I translated that. I'm like, okay, and I can feel it. I could feel it just running through my arm. Um, for days I could feel that out on my head. So that's kind of my relationship now with the bees.
There's there's a whole institute of therapy with bee stinging. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yes.
Have you
yes.
ever considered that they're protecting you?
That's what I mean. I think that there's some way that it's a positive. That's the only way that I can figure it, because we were so close.
Yeah.
It reminded me of a movie I saw. It was Jupiter Ascending was the film, where the bees surrounded the main character and protected her. They were genetically attracted to her as royalty or something.
Okay, that's it right there, the royal part. Yeah, that's it right there. But yeah, no, for how much I played with these bees and loved them, and they didn't they stung me one time when I was a child. And the only reason why that happened is because my mom, being a mom, she just didn't get that. They allowed me to just do all my weird stuff, but she would say to me, she goes, they're gonna sting you, and I'm like maybe 4, 5 years old, or maybe younger, but I remember around that stage. And she would always say that. And then one morning, as I was doing my usual catch the bee in the palm of my hand, don't hurt them and play with them, one stung me on my arm. But I think the bee got nervous too, because I may have brushed him or something. I may have done something that jarred the bee as well.
Yes. Yeah.
But it never bothered. I was crying for a minute, but it never deterred me from playing with them. So I never developed a fear behind it. And when you're in the island, particularly, I know in Jamaica, when you get stung, what you do is you just pull the bushes, the green bushes, off whatever fence there is, and you rub the area, you squeeze it, and then you rub it on the area. And that's basically what I did.
That's like a poultice.
Yes. And it was fine. And then I was right back to doing it, within minutes. I was right back on the job.
I have noticed the bees have changed. I've always had them come around me, but they do seem more aggressive in the last year.
Yeah.
And it's something, because I go to the forest every weekend, and I'm starting to notice they have a different vibration.
It's different. I agree with you. There's definitely something different in the energy from what I remember as a child. There's definitely something different.
They've elevated their vibration to match 5G.
There you go.
Yep.
There it is right there. Maybe we should all just keep a swarm in the house.
Right? A couple around the house.
A couple around the house.
They act like like salt lamps, bees.
That is funny. I like that they act like salt lamps. That'd be so great. You go into my bedroom and it's like I found a way to make all the walls, they're there, but all the walls are just
Bees, the
Yes.
curtain of bees. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was a movie like that too. I can't remember what it was. I think it was a remake of The Wicker Man. And they used bees.
Oh, okay.
So Sonia, were you a child that dreamed a lot?
I'm sure I did. I don't remember now specifically what yeah, I don't have any specific dream other than the fact that I tend to have dreams now. This could be going back to that time. I have dreams, and I'm pretty sure it was then too, where I would go to certain houses, certain towns, certain places. I would go there all the time. There could be a certain store or shop, but there are places that in dreams, I would visit all the time. And every now and then, I will still go there now. Every now and then, I will go to these certain places. So that was always kind of weird. And I see myself as a little girl going past, there's this one particular house that, I mean, it's only in the dream, but it would always seem so real. Like this place exists somewhere in this dream state, in this wake dream state.
Mm-hmm.
And I can still see it. I would go by that house all the time. I just walk by it. I think I've been inside. So there's familiar places where I seem to visit on and off. Yeah.
I'm going to return to that later, the architecture, because I find it very important and significant when people have, when there's familiar architecture, even though it can change, the feeling, it's the same place, but it can shift. So we'll get back to that. That's very interesting. That's way back there. That's fantastic. Did you like, when you were little, did you like anything kind of in pop culture? And so I'm not from Jamaica, so I don't know what you had access to. So like cartoons.
What did I like? Geez, what comes to mind right off the bat was Deputy Dog.
Yes.
Deputy Dog. Popeye for sure.
Yes.
But again, it's what we had. We had one channel.
Mm-hmm.
And it signed on at like 5 p.m.
I think that might be for the best of what should be happening now.
Yeah, it signed on at 5. And even though it signed on at 5, I was only allowed to watch it for, I think, maybe an hour and a half or so. The particular shows that would come on that I was allowed to watch after a while. And of course, one was the very top and important Batman.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, every family had to watch Batman in Jamaica.
Yes.
I mean, people would stop what they're doing to find a home to go to if you don't have a TV to watch Batman with very bad acting.
Oh my God, Batman still holds up for me though. The original,
I
love it.
The original, it was like
with
so
Eartha Kitt as
my God, as Catwoman.
Yes.
I met her once when I was in college. I met her once. She was such an incredibly interesting lady.
She's the queen. She is.
She has no filter on her mouth, what she says. It was crazy, but
I actually appreciate that.
Yeah, but she had no filter. You don't want to ask her a question if you don't want the answer. Let's just put it that way. And a couple of people got their feelings hurt that day.
Aww.
We need more Earthas today.
I'll tell you, darling.
Yeah, well, she was. But yeah, so I mean, I would say those were some of the things that I remember in terms of, we were talking about like cartoons. And of course, when I left there and I came here, there's so many things. Oh, you know what? In Jamaica, Disney was huge.
Interesting.
Oh God, Walt Disney. You know how they'd have movies, but they would come up with the Walt Disney thing when you wish upon a star and you see Jiminy Cricket, or whoever that was, moving and singing before the movie started.
Yes.
And I always found that song fascinating. And I think it holds so much more than people think.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously we're not going there, but Walt Disney, Mr. Walt Disney, of course, belonged to, you know, some secrets. Was he a secret society?
He was a Freemason.
He was a Freemason,
33rd
right?
Girl,
degree.
we can go there.
We can
Yeah.
go. Yeah, I was just going to say,
Nox
Wish Upon a Star is one of the most heavily mind-controlled program
it is.
songs. Yeah.
It is. And I mean, even as a child, I was fascinated by it. But I think too, what I saw, because even then, I was kind of interesting. But even then, when you hear that song, When You Wish Upon a Star, makes no difference. What is it? Who you are?
Mhm.
Anything your heart desires will come to you.
Mhm.
I think that there's like it's a coin. So there is a flip side to everything. So on one side, yeah, you might have mind control, but on the other side, it's magic. I mean, and it's the truth.
Yes.
It's like with all of us, it just depends on what you define that star to be. It could mean a whole lot of different things. That star could be that part of you that could be considered like the genie in a bottle. When you wish upon a star, is it the genie? Is it the you? Is it that expansive
Mhm.
self?
Mhm.
Anything your heart desires will come to you. What it is the truth that human beings create. I mean, bring forth. Just you know, a magician waving his or her wand, not realizing all that they are bringing into their reality. So I think there's a lot of underlying things there, and it's just a matter of working things in a way where, when you know the masses are ignorant to so much, and the masses, particularly at that time, and in the islands and in many places, religion dominated. It just dominates, um, which of course causes people to not be in touch with who they are, but more so based on some sort of, you know, organized belief system. So you know, religion, secret society, you know, in one way, yes, there's all the same cultish um thing and manipulation, for lack of a better word. It's this big mishmash of control that goes on when it comes to ignorance, people's ignorance.
Mhm. On
Wait,
this,
I got a question for you. Did
Yes,
you ever
go,
read
Jerry.
this back? I tried to get in about the Disney stuff. Speaking of Freemasons and 33rd degree Freemasons, and did you know that Disneyland is on the 33rd parallel? Latitude 33, which I was going to, this was my question was, have you ever heard, there's a book by Walter Bosley called Latitude 33 about Disney and that stuff.
Oh, okay. No, but I do know, you're telling me that specifically. I don't know if I remember that. And the reason why I'm saying that is I've had so many conversations in the 90s with Jordan Maxwell about,
oh yeah, sure.
You know, a whole lot of things, and the, you know, the planet itself and where things are, and even banking systems and stuff. I mean, everything is located in a space, not randomly. Let's just say that.
Yeah, they're all on the grids. Yeah.
What I find fascinating too is when you go into Disney, when you go to Disneyland, and I remember when my kids, of course, my children are adults, but they're own children, and we went there, and I was laughing. I was like, this whole place is just like being on one big mushroom trip, or you know, I mean, you know, or whatever it is. When you look at all the stuff everywhere, you're like, what is this? And everybody gets so excited to go into this space. It's really fascinating to be standing back and watching it. To be able to talk to Mickey, things that do not really exist, not that anything exists, but specifically a world that has been created of this other level of fantasy for the mind. And you go into this space, and you're forcing your kids to go and talk to Mickey and Minnie and and with Snoopy, and you know, all these characters, Donald Duck, Daisy, you know, all of these characters that have no bearing on anything other than another level of fantasy that's already in the fantasy. You're already in a fantasy, but let's put 2 or 3 more layers.
Yes.
fantasy that somehow impacts your mind all the way into your what we call adult life. And that I find interesting because there are adults that just love Disney. Oh, they can't wait. Remember NFL when they used to go, what are you going to do now? And it's like, we're going to Disney. We're going to Disneyland. You know? So, you know, these 7 foot tall men,
right, right.
250 pounds. Yeah, we're going to see Mickey. What is going on?
That was paid for, though.
I know it was. Okay.
But yeah, I remember it was like the joke. It became a meme in and of itself. Yeah. You know?
But even though it was paid for a reason. It wasn't just basic advertising. I mean, it was truly a promotion of the importance of Disney on a person's mind. I think is what I'm saying. It was the importance of that, because Disneyland is technically it's its own country. Technically, it was supposed to be its own little country. I don't know how it is now, but I know at one point, technically, even law enforcement really weren't at one point allowed to just go there unless they were called in there. It's like its own reality. So it's just so much going on here. Just layers and layers of stuff.
You know, it's just a small world after all.
You have to say that. That's a good one. That's a really good one. Oh my God. It's
hard not to think of your book, The Holographic Canvas, when we're talking about these like worlds within worlds, right? In a way, and how actually labyrinth-like it all kind of seems when we start moving in that direction of, say, Disney World.
Right. I mean, and it is. I mean, we live a system in a system. It's an endless series of systems, and I think that's something that some people have a time wrapping their minds around, because I think our brains get sort of locked into a focus on this third dimensional reality, or this perceived reality, or the reality that we have become accustomed to. So there is this sense of a singular reality. I think most people have this sense of just a singular reality. We're walking around, we live in our houses, we see our cars, our brains are sort of wired to filter out all that is actually going on. There is like immeasurable layers of reality, of potentials happening in this very space. But I think all of those things I found to be interesting, and I find it extremely interesting, the technology of these vehicles and the filtering that happens to keep our minds focused on a particular version of reality. I know my language is kind of specific because I'm always making a specific point, that we are operating and focused on a version of reality. And when I say version, I simply mean that this is not the only game in town, that just because you think that this is what you see and that life is what it is, that's a version that your mind is locked into, your brain is focused on. It's a familiar pattern. It's a familiar concept. It's a familiar idea that gets supported and reinforced by people and conditions and everything around you. Hence, we go back to talking even about the commercial. We go back to even talking about the ball players and the Disney. That's just showing another way of reinforcing a particular idea, a particular concept of reality that has to be sold to the masses, so that everybody, for the most part, appear to be operating off of a similar version of reality, a similar interpretation of reality. And that has to happen in order to keep certain belief or behavior going, in order to maintain a particular version of the human experience, a particular version of the game. There's so many things happening, as I said, so that you don't, you don't see the bigger picture. Because if you start to see the bigger picture, then you start to be more, there's an independence that starts to take place. And it's like you start to become a bit unhooked from this network that all our brains are sort of wired into, of what this reality is supposed to be and what it's supposed to look like, this singular interpretation or idea of reality. But yes, there's layers, there's realms, endless realms, endless potentialities and experiences and things going on, all in this now, a different level of this now.
What do you think that network is that you spoke to, how we're all connected?
Oh, well, it's beyond 5G, I can tell you that much.
I've just had this idea in my head for a while that it's like, what if our subconscious was what was linked, and everyone's got their own, so the right brain's connected to everyone, to the cloud, whatever, but your left brain's your own, and that's why they're separate. That might work.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some distinctions there. There has to be, what you're talking about. There has to be some sort of out with anything. All human beings have the opportunity to actually discover or penetrate the game, to penetrate reality as it appears to be. Every human being has that potential. So the whole construct is designed that way. But because, again, of reinforcement and so many other things, we don't see that. So yeah, so we are sort of wired into this a particular version of reality. And I do see that there is that part of us that has the opportunity to be authentic and independent, and go rogue, and basically unhook. But the system does not encourage or support that. Otherwise, the game would collapse. And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of those who think that they're in control anyway. And I'm just talking on this minuscule level of reality, meaning right down here. I'm not talking outside of the space right now. But there are those people who say in upper levels, secret society, or those who consider themselves the elite, or those who are sort of overlooking or overseeing this human beings and the laws that will be put in place and how to control human beings and so on, and who we consider to be the extremely wealthy. In order to make that exist, for those people to continue to be what they are, you can't have all these people waking up. Then everybody would basically, it would be a playing field, and everything is really fair game. You have to keep it on balance. You have to keep, to the best of your ability, most people in a dumbed down state, and in order for 5 people to control billions.
Where's the tipping point? Where does it switch?
That's a question that I think a lot of people ask. And here's why it's a tricky question. I think why it's a trick.
It's a trick question to start with.
Yeah, it is. It's a trick question because human beings appear to not have any control, but that is the illusion, that you have no control. So you have the opportunity to, again, go rogue and take off on your own and not be part of the Borg mind. And so there's that opportunity. But at the same time, we sort of feel like, well, is there a point when, like you said, what was the tipping point when all of this stops? Is there a tipping point, or does it just keep going as a way to push and force human beings to wake up? I mean, there's all kinds of ways that this could be, could truly be looked at, is the truth of the matter. And I do see that. I call it a default system. I do see that there is a default system in place. And when I say a default system, I see that when you have human beings that are so in a state of awareness, or so it appears, that they're in a state of being unaware of like much of this conversation, or of what the possibilities are. Um, I think there had to be some sort of navigating system in place that creates some sort of default evolution. Like it automatically creates levels of growth for human beings. And I think we're seeing that now. And this is what I think some of the ancients, when we look at the ancients and what they were talking about, like these different points in time, like everybody was on board for the year 2012, this great cycle that was coming of 104,000 years. I think that it operates in cycles. I think this default system operates in cycles, and it's growth spurts. There's this period of growth that sort of happens by default. We're now in age of technology. But what I like to point out is that to people is that from what I see, you don't have to wait for a default evolution. That's the notion that is sold, that which is really part of this group mind thinking, that we can only this can only shift if we shift together. I think that's also all part of this illusion. Yet we see in history, even whether it's, whether we believe in them or not, obviously it got thrown in there somewhere to hear about, Yeshua or Buddha or others who did not wait on a group. They somehow individually um went off and did their thing. So I think that is there, but human beings think that they have to go in this group mind sort of thing. And so I think the default system is there to take humans on a growth and an evolution, because everything must expand. I mean, everything must upgrade. That's the word. Everything must gradually go through some sort of upgrade, through the cosmos, through whatever, become more. And that's kind of that's the only way that I can really see that and explain that. But it's not limited to waiting for a tipping point. It's up to the individual. That's a lot of responsibility for many people.
So you just mentioned too, like key factors or key at least symbols of people like Christ and Buddha that unlocked the code, went rogue, however you want. In that vein, were you brought up religious at all?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was. My parents were. My family was Christians, obviously. Yes, it was like a big thing. But I was always different. I was always different, and I mean, I was allowed to be different. I was always questioning all of this. So yeah. So for me, it eventually, no, it didn't really stick. I mean, you're looking at a child questioning death, questioning the validity of death from as far back as I can remember. That's not part of the Bible. I mean, when I say not part of the Bible does mention it, but people turn it into something else. However, yeah, they were embracing that, and I'm sitting there as a small child thinking that the whole thing is just bizarre to me, and wondering how come nobody else seemed to realize that this is just weird, that there's something off about all of this.
So did you encounter, and still back in your early life, so in the stance we have of you, askew or at a slant from the normal Christian ways, and pondering the deeper layers, which death is definitely takes you into that realm. Did you encounter death early on to give you a different perspective?
No.
So this was just, you were naturally there.
I came onto the planet with that sense of everything, that in particular being just very odd, and knowing that had a very optional feeling sense to me. that's the only thing way I can put it. There was something about it that just seemed like that, and that people were caught up in some sort of thought process or sleep process, and just weren't seeing it. So now that's as far back as I can remember as a child. I mean, that far back. No, there was nothing in particular that I encountered. Even my sense of being here, everything was always interesting to me, fascinating. Money, for one, I just found it so fascinating in terms of people and their response to money. And my sense of loving the planet. I always liked being here. I was always fascinated by being here. I mean, truly, I mean, pretty much almost as if you could say, like, you went to another country. You're not from there, and you're just fascinated with it. I think that's how I saw. I could look back and see myself. It was a fascination and a love for being here and having this experience. You know, through all of the madness. Now, I mean, I need to throw that in. It was not like it was like, oh, everything was just wonderful, and I was eating ice cream every day. And cookies. It was just great. It was hell at times.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's the game. You know, it's the human game in, you know, many different forms. But that was where I was coming from.
Did you so it doesn't, we can move past like the early stuff. Did you, but just at any time in your life now, so with some of these, did you, or have you experienced uncomfortable dreams, so like dream terrors, nightmares, those kinds of things? And then still with a slant towards the earlier life, like that there might be darker entities, or, you know, the proverbial thing under the bed or in the closet.
Let's see. Okay, what I can say is, okay, one of the things, I guess, for me that probably came close to just a bizarre feeling. A lot of people have sleep paralysis, and I think that was probably one of the biggest things I think that would happen to me is sleep paralysis, which, as everybody knows who has it, it is like the most freakiest thing ever. In terms of darker forces or anything being encountered throughout the course like that, I'm gonna say right off the bat, I'm probably, but nothing that to make an impact per se. Like, no, nothing where I feel like I was, you know, being taken or anything. But certainly, I've had interesting dreams and experiences. I mean, I've had dreams where I've gone to the land of the dead.
Well, could you give us a little sample of that?
There was one dream. Here's one dream I had, and this was just a few years ago, actually, where I ended up in this. Okay, I remember being in this person's room. I ended up in this room, this bedroom, and this lady was talking to me, and I'm trying to see which came first. Was it when she was talking to me? Did I know at that point? I remember that point, but then I remember walking around, and it looked like, you know, our regular life to some degree, but it was a hazier color. The coloring was like more of a dusty tone. And I remember this one man who seemed to be walking with a cane for a minute, and then he threw away his cane. He let it go. He didn't need it anymore. And then I think it's him or somebody else said to me, "Oh, you should see the sunsets here." And I was walking around, and it was really just different. And then at some point, it switched back to me in the room, and this lady was explaining to me what had happened to me. And she told me that I died. And I was like, what? And I said to her, I said in that moment, I was like, oh, no, no, no. I need a body back right now. And right when I said that, I realized what I said. I said, I need my body back right now. And in that moment, I jumped up out of my sleep.
Oh, wow.
And another time I was in this place that looked like almost like a train station. And I was walking around and people were just sitting around, and I realized what it was. I don't think they could really see me, but people were sitting around. I think they were dead, and it's like they were waiting. They were all just kind of waiting for something. I don't know. It could be based on their belief. They were just waiting. And I thought, wow, this is crazy. I was aware in the dream of what was going on, that these people were just sort of zombied out. They were just sitting there waiting. So apparently maybe it was spirits that that were just, I don't know, stuck. And I realized I was zooming through there. I had another dream where I also was walking around, and it wasn't my house, but my family was there, and nobody could see me. And I realized, I guess they were looked like they were mourning me or something. So I mean, I've had several interesting dreams where I jumped up, and and I think one or two of them freaked me out. But I mean, I could tell you, I could go on. I've had, experienced that shadow man that some people have dealt
Yes. Will you tell us about your experience with the shadow men?
with. I was laying in bed, and I was sleeping, and then suddenly I felt and this shadow, and I saw that this shadow with a cape coming, like it's like gonna lay on top of me. And in that moment, I can't really say on your show, but in that moment, I just yelled, "Get the F off me!" And it was gone like that quick.
You can say that on our show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You can say whatever you want. We do not restrict free speech here.
Let it flow, girl. So it jumped on you.
It was getting ready to lay on top of me, and I was like, I was not having it. And so so that was that with that situation. And I'm sure there are others, and there are many others that I guess I've not really thought about, because I don't really hold on to some of this stuff, and just kind of move on, because I realize that, again, as I said earlier, we are operating in this multi-highway of potentials, of realms. There's so much going on. And every now and then, veils are removed, and we experience or see, and it's how we experience. It's how we handle ourselves, and our own inner strength, and what we come to the table with in that sense. And that's why it's really important in our lives that we own our power, that we own who we are, that we really do realize that we are the very fabric of creation. We are that which we truly are looking for. And that which we are, this fabric that cannot be defined, it has just narrowed itself, or brought itself into this expression that I am this character of Sonia in this body, and you are, but we're still that. We are still this undefinable. And I think that's a challenge that people have, because we're so fragmented that we separate that we separate ourselves. So therefore, we're always having to look for something else that is greater than us. And this is how we become vulnerable. And this is how other things and people have access to us. You have to know that you are the very fabric. Everything really is. But being expressed in this moment, in this expression that we are calling Sonia Barrett at this time. So it's that awareness. Then you stop looking outside for something else greater than you, and you stop making, you know, extraterrestrials and everybody else and ascended masters and you know and all your channel stuff. You stop making all of those things bigger than you.
Yes.
You just stop doing that. It's all a game, and everything is there. There is nothing that we can think of that isn't a potential, that isn't a possibility. And I think for me, coming from that space of realizing that, you know what, everything is a possibility. Okay, no. So what do you choose to work with, Sonia? What do you choose to have a relationship with? What do you choose to engage in? What is the game you choose to be part of? What is the story you wish to participate in? Who would you want in your script? And I think we start realizing more from that standpoint. We begin to be okay with owning who we are. Then we can begin to be more authentic. Then we can begin to penetrate this veil and this illusion of dominance and control that seem to be in place. And then we become more of the virus to the system. So anyway, so yeah, so that's kind of, you know, my thinking and my experiences, and that's just some of my experiences. I mean, we could go on all night. Oh, I had one. This is different though, but this didn't freak me out. I've talked about it on other shows. Encountering myself, or merging with a future self. And this was not like in a dream. This was an experience in a particular state, but it wasn't a dream state. I was very aware. I just did not know what that was. I knew it was like somebody levitating, like, you know, towards me, just like they're walking, but they're levitating, dressed in a very unique outfit and hair, very futuristic. And
can you describe the outfit and hair a little bit?
I can't. I have tried. I've been wanting to. There's an artist that I'm going to get together with that I understand is very great at you talking, and they pick up what that is.
Yeah.
And then when they do, I will know what it is. But it was I just remember the dress was kind of long, and the hair was in sort of this up, not the way we really wear our hair per se here, but it was just the style of it, almost like ancient, but not. You know, it was future. And then as she levitated towards me, I realized, I'm like, oh my God, that's me. And it was very bizarre. And I was laying down, and I remember she said to me, she says, we have to merge now. This was back in the 90s. And I was very uncertain at first. I thought, I don't know. And then I said, okay, I'm just going to go for it. And then she then levitated over me, like, you know, the same, just levitated, you know, head to head, toe to toe, over me. And I literally felt when we locked, like you lock two puzzles, you lock two things together. And my whole body, I jumped. And that was, I think, a defining moment where I did not know then what that was. And as the years gone by, I realized, well, because there's so much that I have been able to, I guess, access. And I think that was all part of that whole experience. And by the way, yes, I know that everything is made up of information. So I don't really get into tapping into the Akashic records and all of that. Everything is information based. Everything. It's all streams of information. Every bit of it. These bodies, everything is streams of information to form a pattern. The body itself is a pattern, but it's streams of information and everything. And the air you breathe, everything. The chair, the desk, it all has data in it, and we have access to all kinds of knowledge. It's, nobody's really keeping anything from anybody. I think it's just a matter of one's curiosity and one's desire, one's commitment. And some people are very committed to the game of not knowing, and I get it, because there's a responsibility that comes with that, and the responsibility is the fact that you are really responsible for yourself. So there is not that same sense of, God will take care of it. I mean, you find that you are that. So, on a much bigger level, though, as opposed to just this automated self that we tend to deal with, the automated part of us, which really seems to know only things of the past and survival, as opposed to that part of you that supersedes, that automated robotic self.
Yes, it is. Yeah, all I've got to say is yes to that. I take notes, not notes, I scribble for each guest. And one of the things, yours is the only time I ever did a figure. So I'll send you a picture. She's very futuristic, by the way.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's a very, very strange figure.
Oh, okay.
So in the dream architecture, so this can just apply to your whole experience of being Sonia in the day side, in this kind of waking experience we're having right now, if it is that. What does the general experience how does it play out for you generally, as far as colors, architecture, which we already touched on earlier, and I want to get further into that. Tactile, like, do you smell? How real is the dream landscape for you? How lucid do you get within it?
I don't know. It's a good question. It's a good question. I'd have to think about that. I'd have to really think about that. Because I'm just, I am, that's the only way I can put it. I am here and I am experiencing, and I can't really put my finger on necessarily. I see different things. Sometimes I'll see the spirals, like the golden mean, or the spirals in the ground in different things. I see, for whatever reason, this is very bizarre, but vehicles, as long as it is a vehicle moving, I see the energy field around vehicles for whatever reason. I cannot tell you why specifically, but I see the energy field around vehicles. I thought everybody saw it, but I see energy fields around vehicles. I would say there's a level of sensitivity to, again, here we go, with people going by in cars, and their energy. I would say from that perspective. I'm sure there's a whole lot of other perspectives, I think, that are normal to me. That's why I'm having to really think about it, that they're just normal to me.
So within normal, I hate to use the word normal, within your general
binormal.
Yeah, exactly. Have you found yourself in an OBE state, or where you clearly know that you're awake and yet also you're out of your Sonia vessel?
Oh yeah. I mean, oh yeah. I've definitely
lucid.
Yeah, I've definitely had um those dreams, those I don't even know if we're going to call them dreams, but
Experiences, really.
experiences. Yeah, I've totally had those experiences where I am aware that, okay, here's one that was one of the most interesting ones, and it stuck with me, boy. Is I'm going to call it a dream, but anyway, I am out walking around in this field of pop. I'm picking up these little poppies, I guess, and I am laughing. And I am saying, I cannot believe I'm awake in my dream. That was one of the most profound ones because I am going, oh my God, I am awake in my dream. That was really interesting. That was totally interesting. Um, and then others, just in many different situations. And I think for sure during sleep paralysis, I had one incident in particular. There's a lot of them, but this one in particular, because it was like, I think it was more recent. It was last year. And I was on the couch. It was a two-seater. And I'm not one of those people that fall asleep. I don't lay around and fall asleep. But for some reason, I was sitting, but I was sort of laying on my back a little bit, which is usually when it happens, is when I'm laying on my back.
Mhm.
And I sort of dozed off, and you can feel sleep paralysis coming. And
Mhm.
if you have to catch it like in time. If you do not catch it and turn in time, forget it. So I felt it and I was like, oh my God, here we go. And I didn't turn in time. And I was there and I could hear my husband going by, and I was like trying to get him to come over there and touch my arm, to come over and touch my arm. And I had my hand up, but obviously it was my astral hand.
Mhm.
I had it up in there. I mean, I could see that like my hand was up, but obviously my hand wasn't really up. And just experiencing that, having that out of body experience where I'm hearing him going by and all that's going on, and me trying to get his attention to come and touch my arm, which I think eventually somehow he came by and he might have brushed against me. Because sometimes that's all you need. And it came out of it. I was like, oh my God. And then I was trying to tell him, did you hear me trying to get your attention? Oh my gosh. Just so many things that seem so that seem so bizarre to us, and yet they are the most normal, natural things. And I think all of these things are just a glimpse into so much. And even I was talking to a friend, I think earlier today, as a matter of fact, because she had emailed me because she had heard another interview that I had done, and for whatever reason, the interview triggered something. I think that was when I was on Red Ice, when Red Ice was Red Ice, and so I this was about her driving and sort of wondering, all of a sudden she realized that where she was looked completely unfamiliar to her. Yet she had gone by there so many times. And so she was saying, jumping through time, did she go through some sort of time warp? Oh, I know. I was talking about a story about this man, this story I heard from a long time ago about this man who walked through some sort of portal, a farmer, and ended up into some other timeline, and was very confused. But so I've seen this situation, and I think a lot of people have had that, where you're driving, and it's happened where suddenly everything looks completely unfamiliar. And it's not that you're losing your mind. I've had it hiking. I hiked this trail a whole lot of times, and suddenly it was like I was somewhere completely different, like I had never gone down that trail before.
Mm.
And I think sometimes we do we jump around in time. Period. We
Mhm.
do, but I think that there are moments where we are aware, where we capture that. And I think because it's our consciousness that's really traveling around in time, traveling
Mhm.
around in the idea of time anyway, and wherever it seemed to be focused, that makes it seem like the only reality in town. But yet we have moments where we get a sense that we were somewhere else 2 seconds ago. And I think we dismiss those things, where you go, why do I feel like maybe I was on the couch like 2 seconds ago? I don't know if you've ever had that, yeah. And then you dismiss it. But maybe you were, you're jumping around, your consciousness is just moving around, and we're just zoning in on these certain moments and locking them in as a final version of reality in the moment.
What do you think is going on when a deja vu happens?
When a deja vu happens, what do I think is going on when a deja vu happens? I think it's very related to what I just said.
Yeah, that's what made me think of it.
I think is very much related to what I just said. All right, case in point. Some of you have heard me before. I've told this story before, but I had a friend, a very, very, very close friend, and we go all kinds of places together. And this would happen on several occasions where I would remind her about a place that we had been. I go, remember when we went to such and such, and this happened, and remember. And she'd go, I wasn't there. And I get so irritated. I'm like, what's wrong with her memory? And then she would say, I wasn't even in California yet. I didn't even live here yet. But
yeah, wow.
I have memory of hanging out with her wherever. Now, some people may come in and something may be happening, and it's like, oh, deja vu. I feel like I've lived this before. I've done this before. I also think that we also have to remember that we are always somebody's past. We are could possibly be the echo to something that already happened. I think there's all of those possibilities that are going on. No different than a psychic. Somebody can pick up or see something that's coming. Is it because it already happened? And and everything sort of falls through what we call time, through the fields of the electromagnetic spectrum into this timeline. I mean, there are all these possibilities, I'd say, that exist, all these potentials that exist. No different than a sound. We'll say, we'll hear a sound, we'll bang a key on the piano, and it keeps going until we don't hear it anymore. But has that sound stopped? Are we all just echoes? Has life happened, and we are just catching this? And let me throw this in too, because they say this about the mirror. That when you look in the mirror, the image that you see in the mirror at that moment is a past image. It's I forgot how many seconds, because it has to do with the light frequency catching up to somehow to reflect in the mirror.
But the speed of light is an instant. There's a delay.
Exactly.
It's like 0.02 milliseconds.
So when you think about that, there's a lot to be considered in a sense of what's really happened. You know what I mean? And for our mathematics right now, in terms of, because we're always behind on the discoveries, in terms of scientific discoveries, we're always behind. We seem advanced, and that's why when we talk about some of these extraterrestrials or whoever we want to call it, whoever from another planet or another time, they seem to be more technologically advanced. And I think that is what we deal with, is our technology here is relevant or relative to, I think, where we are. But I do think that we've already happened. You ask somebody a few light years away from here, and they tell you already happened.
Oh yeah. So, and this falls seamlessly into where I wanted to go, where we started almost, with reoccurrence within the dreamscape. and however we want to parse out what the dream state is compared to this. So with you, it was this architecture, which I also relate to. There, I always have a house that changes, but it's always the same house, the same places. So what do you think's going on with this kind of architecture within the dream landscape that seems a bit more solid? You know, even though it changes for us, you recognize it, you know it, you return to it. That something seems very significant to me in that the stability of that within something that's considered basically not stable, the dream.
I mean, I think what you're saying is that even though certain things about it may change, say for example a house, but the core essence of that space, the core foundation is you know, you're familiar with. It's that
Yes.
same house, but somehow the architecture changes to some degree. Um, and oh, there was something I was going to say about that. With oh, I think and I'm just throwing this out, but I think one of the things that happens is we have to keep in mind is that our brain works off of patterns. It looks for patterns. And I think there's something to familiar patterns. I really do. I
Yes.
think even in that state, it's a familiarity. We change aspects of that construct, but at the same time, there is a familiarity there, and your brain is constantly looking for patterns, whether it be patterns for behavior, or patterns for a belief system, or patterns for um, you know, third dimension, for anything at all. It has this pattern that we have um become accustomed to. Somehow it's become, I don't want to say imprint, but it's somehow it's printed there. Somehow it's printed, and we keep going back to it. We just keep going back to some of these I think familiarities for whatever reason. I don't know. I've never really stopped to look and see is what's going on in my life when I happen to revisit these places. I've never
Hmm.
really stopped to check it out, because maybe there is something, some sort of connection there as to why you end up going to these particular places. Even sometimes you haven't gone there in years, you know. um there is a place that I've gone to, I used to go to more frequently in a dream, and it was this store. And they sold Jamaican, um you know, patties and certain things that I like in this particular store. And I would go there in my dream. And then I remember going there. I don't remember when it was. I think it was maybe a little while I hadn't gone there. And I remember thinking when I was going there, I wonder if they still sell. You know, it was that crazy. It's like I wonder if they still have that. I remember going in, and it seemed like it was under new management.
Well, after all those years, you know.
It was like it seemed like it was under new. It was the same place, but there were some changes made. It seemed like they were selling other things.
Hmm.
That's wild, huh? So I also think we're, you know, we are living I think multiple lives in this space we call this dream state. I think we go into this state, we're certain our bodies are still anchored here. We're still tethered to our bodies, and our brains are very much here and active. But I think there's a level of filters that come off, which is why, you know, these certain chemicals, hormones get produced at certain times of the night for dreaming. And
Hmm.
I think that it's almost like dreams can act as a portal. So I think we're going to many different places. I think there's a lot more going on, and I think we capture, I think, a very small portion. We come back remembering a very tiny portion, I think, of all the travels that we actually do when we leave here. I think we live, you know, we go on, we live all these many lives associated, I'm going to say, because this is what's coming up to me, associated with that simulation. That's the
Hmm.
word that just popped up
Hmm.
for me. So I think that there's a whole lot that's going on in that space.
So in this, where is the idea of, okay, so I'm looking for realness here. So where you can be in these other states of consciousness, and this doesn't have to just be in the realm of dreams here. We can be in other states of consciousness. So meditative states, even hallucinogenic states. Sorry, somebody's going by on a bike. And where, so it's a matter of where is our consciousness focus? What makes one thing more real? Why do we insist? Why does the general public insist that this is the real, this state
Yeah.
we're in right now, as
Yeah,
opposed to a dream or another state of consciousness?
Yeah, but we just think that's what we're doing, though. But maybe we're not. Maybe every potential other reality that our consciousness is focused on, we do the same thing. Because then you don't remember the other thing, and then that's
right.
So I think that's all that is going on. I think that's really what's going on. And real. And when I wrote the holographic canvas, what came to me was real. The word real is realm of focus. That's what I wrote. That realm of focus, real, realm, and reality are all offshoots of each other. So what's real? The idea of real is wherever our consciousness seems to be focused, that's what's real to us. And what is real, what is wherever where consciousness is focused, is then the realm that we're focused on. It is the realm, and realm is, reality. Realm is you're dealing with reality, then another angle of reality. Real, realm, and reality, all offshoots of the same word.
What do you think the boundaries of each realm are, if any?
I don't think there are any boundaries. I think that what happens is, I think it's our brain filtering system based on our perception, and I think based on what we can accept as a possibility. And I think the more that we are able to let go of restricting reality, because I think that's what seems to get the sense of holding it in place, because it's more comfortable. We need some things that are certain. We need to know that this is what it is. I think those things are what determines what we will remember, what we will see, what the boundaries are. I think that's what we are doing. I think we're locking it in. But I think that if we were to really understand this, I think we would realize that we are just in this flow. I think we are just moving like this all the time. We just don't know that we're moving like that all the time. I don't think there's a static moment. We're sitting here, and I think it just looks like we've this captured moment that looks like an hour and 15 minutes or whatever. That's just what we can relate to in this reality. But I don't think that. I think we're just moving around all the time. I think we're experiencing a whole lot all the time. And if we just let go, if we can just let go and go, you know what? I am so open to seeing what this, as opposed to going, no, it can only be that way. Then that's all you're going to see. And the brain is like that. The brain has like a 360-degree view of everything. I think that it is networked. It is connected way beyond anything that we can conceive of, the idea of time and space. I think time and space as we know it to be is just our own construct. But I think that there's no way that we exist here like this. We are connected to something that we cannot define. And I think our brains allow that. It's an interface and allows that. And it filters according to the version of reality that we are running. And, and I think we just go from there.
Focused on.
Exactly.
But in essence, we're basically baleen whales. Right? Pulling in all this frequency information and filtering it down to what we can possibly focus on.
Yep.
And what we're distracted to focus on too. That's also
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Because we stay distracted. They keep, the game itself, it keeps you in survival. Everybody is so in survival mode. You're so distracted all the time. And that's the design of it. You're just constantly in the next distraction and survival. And so most people don't have that kind of time. They feel like they're too tired at night to do anything. And that's where religion comes in. Because if you're too tired, guess what? Don't you worry about a thing. We will think for you. We will give you your upload. We will tell you what you need to think and believe. And you come in every Sunday, you get your information, you feel good all week, you feel like you did something. And then you come back next Sunday for your next,
Right.
like upload again.
If you don't frame your reality, we will do it for you.
We will do it for you at no extra cost. Well, maybe 10%.
People are paying.
Right. Boy, my dad was a big tither. I just wanted to add in here, one of my favorite patty restaurants was in Ocho Rios. It's Juicy Patty.
Oh, okay. Hey,
love that place.
Wow. Well, is this in your dream or is this for real?
For real. I've been there several times.
I'm like, define for real.
And in your dream, really, give us the definition.
I don't believe I've ever dreamed about it, but who knows?
That sounds good, though. I could go there right now. Maybe I will. Maybe I have. I don't know. Maybe we were there,
I'm not a big fan of Ocho Rios, so.
And well, Negril. I love Negril.
Negril's nice.
Yeah, Negril's nice. But yeah, gosh, there's just so much. I love all of this simply because you just get to dive in and you're curious. And this is really the very reason for doing this, for being here, whether people realize it or not. It's all of this, it's all of it's the thrill of figuring out something you already really do know.
I agree. I do feel like we do know, but the questioning is part of the journey, and the questioning is part of accepting that. The questioning is part of unlocking the code, actually, saying what is going on here.
Absolutely. You don't ask remember in the Matrix, it's it's the questions. What drive you? Well, you've got to ask those questions, those ideal questions. They hack, they produce passwords, they produce all kinds of things, and people have to be free of the idea of being victimized or controlled. Not that I'm saying that's not happening, but there has to be the environment, the ideal environment has to be created for a lot of things to happen, and everything is taken its cues from us and getting permission. And I know that's hard for a lot of people some people to wrap their minds around, but everything requires our permission. It's just that's that science right there of who we are.
Right. And people just don't realize how much tacit consent they give away.
Yes.
To software license agreements, for instance, or that thing you signed when you signed up for cable.
Oh my God, yes.
It all ties in.
Everything that's happening to you, you've probably given consent to.
Absolutely. And everything that's happening right here is a duplication. Everything just is a what should I say? Is a copy of, the same formula used in different ways.
Right. Domination and control.
Yeah. It's just different ways. We're forming our reality based on a bigger picture, something else that operates that way as well.
Right. And on another aspect of that is that a large portion of the population is being programmed to generate that reality.
Absolutely.
In the way that whatever desires. According to their agenda is what I mean.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's true. And it's happening.
Sonia, what is your concept of the soul and spirit, if they're separated or if they're the same? But what are they when you hear those words, what do you think?
Yeah, you like to ask easy questions. Yeah.
Thank you.
I can't tell you how many people stumble over her questions though too. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I described the soul in the holographic canvas at the time. For me, when I saw this, and I like to take everything out of that space where everybody puts it into this, I don't know, this out there space and like, ooh, you can't touch it. Oh my God, you have to have a soul. And I was like, well, the soul is just a holographic record keeper. And ultimately, that's what everybody was saying. They just don't know that's what they're saying. say, well, it keeps track of it. It's a holographic record keeper. And it's keeping, I just think, information on that particular expression that embodies this form. And when it's not embodying this form, I think there is a uniqueness to that expression, to you, to me. And I think the soul is just a holographic record keeper, keeps information records of many different times and possibilities and so on. And then I don't know, we could take that into an even bigger space of what, what does that look like? Is that based on a particular construct of reality? Is that only based on um our idea of reality from a human being's perspective? There's all kinds of ways in which we can come at this. And of course, I think as far as the spirit, yes, I see it as an aspect um, of us outside of this form, that which is in this form. But I think we exist in layers. I think there's a layering, like maybe 3 parts to us that actually is inside, that takes on this vehicle. I think we animate this body. I don't think people think that they're this body and like they're totally in it. I think we're animating it, and what is being experienced through the sensory system of this technology. That's how we feel and have all this stuff going on. So I think that there's a layering that of us, like, I don't know, like 3 parts to us before we hit inside of this thing we call a body that we identify as ourselves.
So, and with this, I want to get into the idea of birth, which also will take us into death. Um, so before we, I've always viewed it as we do animate these shells. This to me is just a husk, and we are animating it. And you see people who are not actually. But so before we come into, and part of the nowness is this persona of self, right? Sonia, Nish, Jerry. So before we come into this, in the nothingness, I guess, on the tree of life, the Keter, wherever you are with that, what is the process of coming into the flesh, into matter? Do we come in with a plan? Is it like a school system where we set up our lessons for the semester? How do we find ourselves in matter like this? Is it a trap? Just all these kinds of things swim around my head.
Yeah, I think we come in. I think there is to some degree some sort of plan. When I say plan, I think that there is a core thing to coming here in the first place. I think there's a core journey, and I think we see that there are people that come in for a short time, whatever the experience is, and they leave. Some people are here for a much longer haul. I think that there is a core journey. Do I think anything is set in stone? I don't think anything is set in stone, but at the same time, if somebody comes in with some sort of base or core journey, how do we know whether they deviated from that, or whether they changed, or whether that really is their journey? I mean, it's this mishmash of questions. But I do think so. I do think that people come here with some sort of core plan, and that's why you see there are people that you could try to share some things with them, and they are not hearing you. They don't understand. They're not trying to wake up. That is not their path in this life. That is just not for them. They're not going to hear you. They they're bent on their belief system, their religious belief system, and so on. And then I think you have people that are beings that come here with the intention of hacking the game, hacking the experience. So I think there's lots of reasons to why people or a being might end up coming onto the planet. I don't know, could it be a person that is repeating, coming back? Did they come here before? They come here a couple of times? You know, did they decide after a couple of times that they got to figure it out to some degree, and they're coming back and then they're doing it differently? All kinds of scenarios. Is there maybe one scenario? Probably not, because then we're locking ourselves in again. So I don't know necessarily that there's any one way, other than the fact that I do feel that there are some core conditions that I think human beings come onto the planet with. For myself, I definitely sense that, just because from just remembering my first realization of myself as a little human being, I knew there was something different about me and my thinking, and through my eyes, how I viewed the world, and how unique it was to me, as if I landed on another planet or something like that. I do sense that. I do see that. And I think that people come in to families um, for various reasons. I think we come in sometimes for the genetics of that family. If you are going to, for example, be here for a while, you may come in to genetics that are strong and solid, and will last a while. It's very durable. You can drink, smoke, do drugs, and your body will still be good. Some people are like that.
Hey.
Some people do, you know.
Yeah, like my grandfather smoked and had like 18 heart attacks and died at 18
Lived
or
like
something.
100.
85.
Exactly. So yeah, my father-in-law, he smoked from he was 9, and from 9 years old he'd been smoking cigarettes, and he passed away like the year before last year. He was like 87.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? I mean, it's like, that is some genetics.
So there's all of these conditions. Now, here's the thing. Maybe his journey did not involve, maybe in the very beginning, getting sick, getting a disease. His journey didn't involve any of those things. So then is it that the people who end up with certain things, what did their journey involve? They come into a family where the conditions are ripe for the journey. For myself, I can see why I came into my family. I can totally see. And I was born to a mother and father who, that's all they would do, would bring me here. And more so, I think I have my father's genetics. My mother died when I was 13 months old, and her family, her cousin, they're very, very close, and her husband, they adopted me. My father didn't want to give me up, but he was struggling with my mother's death, and long story. Anyway, he allowed them to take care of me for a short while, but then they, fell in love with me, and he knew it was best for me. So he allowed that. Now, I am so grateful that he did that, because the family that raised me was the family that would provide the foundation that I was going to need for who I was going to be. And he was not going to be able to do that. I saw, he remarried, and eventually I met his wife, and those conditions were not going to be comparable to the journey that I was going to need to go on. And so for the individual, we can stop and we can look at our journey, and we can see the environment. Some conditions are tough, where people complain about how hard it was in their life. If you're taking this journey in the way that I'm talking about, where you're digging through to understand and to see, it requires tough skin. It really requires persistence. You have to be durable, determined. It requires a lot of that. And sometimes those conditions shape you. So are you going to be hooked on your story your whole life? If you're here only to be hooked on your story of being a victim, then that's okay too, because that's your journey. That is what you have decided to do, to spend your whole time being hooked on your story of being a victim, one situation after the other, and then people get caught in a loop because the brain looks for patterns once again. And now you keep drawing that to you because the pattern of reality that you have is reflective of that experience. So how can you draw anything other than the pattern that has been formed for your reality in your mind and in your brain? And that's something that people need to stop and need to look at, need to understand how we keep shaping the life and having the same life over and over. Nobody's doing that to you. We just keep running the same story. So, there's all kinds of ways to explore this in terms of who you are, but I don't think anybody should get hooked on astrology either. And I've talked about that. I think that astrology is wonderful in the sense that I think it's very much true because it's tied to the default program. Remember, I talked about the default system that's there when you are a human being that's not moving into a deep level of awareness and awakening. You need a navigation system. You need something to navigate you, and astrology does that. It tells you. Sure, you're born at a particular time and particular conditions that were ripe for your journey, no doubt. And then where you keep going is, okay, well, I can only do this at this particular time, and it says that this is who I am. Okay, then that's who you are. But when you realize and you go, oh, okay, I get it. All right, I'm ready to be back in the driver's seat. I'm ready to be back in the driver's seat. All of that goes out the door. Now you're in charge. Now you don't need the default navigation system to take you around. You're putting that more expansive part of yourself in the driver's seat and to be authentic and to trust and to know that part of you, that more expansive part of you, knows exactly what to do next. And you don't need the safety of this comfortable realization, the things that you need to hold on to because they're the known, because you're afraid of the unknown. It's uncomfortable. The unknown is uncomfortable, so you hang on to the comfort of the known, which is what a lot of people do. And yes, astrology, a lot of times it gives people that sense of comfort because it's a sense of knowing. I know. So those are things too that we have to stop and we have to examine. But we have way more power than we realize. We just have to stop being afraid of ourselves and afraid of who we are.
I think that's very important. And this is why, for me, when it comes to anything that may co-opt my own sense of driving this experience that I'm having, I enjoy astrology. I've always enjoyed it. I enjoy other oracles, throwing bones and cards and cloud busting and all that stuff. But I do not give myself over to it. And this is why I enjoy how Jerry says drinking the Gatorade with the whole Mercury retrograde thing.
Yes.
These are, I feel like these are tools we have in our box that we can use.
Absolutely.
But there is this idea, and you do see it everywhere, and it's not just these things, it's lots of things. It's even our daily cycle of going to work becomes a tool, a crutch, something you can't live without. So look at the rate of people who retire and then die.
Oh, yeah. That's the program, though.
It's absolutely the program. So we there's always this struggle to stay in seated, exalted within yourself. And I think that's one of the lessons for me. I wanted to get your take on the idea of karma.
Oh, here she goes again. With more easy
Hello.
I used to talk about the idea of karma. I think, you know what? I haven't heard the word in such a long time. That ought to tell you where I'm at. It just don't even register on the Richter scale for me, I think is what it is. When you ask me, I have to, it's like in a way prehistoric in my mind because now I have to think about it.
No, that's good though, because maybe that'll come to someone that's, give them something to ponder also.
Okay, so people are caught up on the idea of karma, coming things, what is it? whatever you do, coming back around, and people were
It's
canceling
patterns,
out
right, Sonia?
karma.
It's patterns.
Yeah, canceling out karma and paying all this debt, and oh my God, it just kind of wears me. But I think that all of that was relevant to a time when that was part of our growth in understanding. And I think that, people can begin to move beyond that and to realize, every moment of your life, um, you can pay attention to it and see where you are, in your thinking and in your belief system. And it's not about sitting around, looking at whether you're building up karma or not, but it's just a know thyself. I think just toss that out. Just toss out all those labels. Just know thyself. When we know ourselves and we become, what's the word? We move into a space where we are okay with owning who we are. You don't have to worry about being a good person or any of that, because I kind of throw all that out. I think you just don't have to worry about it. I think that's just all part of the program. I think when we know who we are and we can own who we are, your actions and behavior become completely different, and the survival program doesn't take over so much. The survival program is what causes people to apply certain actions and behavior. It's the only reason why you have to worry about if you're being a good person. If you have to worry about being a good person, then that's because you're worried that you are the opposite of whatever you think being a good person is. If you,
We.
you, you did ask me. Whenever people say, but I'm a good person, I'm always suspicious.
Yeah. Why do you have to qualify that?
Why do you have to qualify that? It's like, okay.
I almost spit out my tea there.
Really, it's always been my, my opinion that I'm defining what a good person is.
Yeah.
It's like I look at it backwards. That's just me.
Yeah, no, but I hear you, and I think that all of that. But I think people are operating that way because of the prerequisites here, and the rules, these certain rules that people want to follow. The barometer that we have of measuring ourselves and who we are, and you want to be on the side of good person, but who set the rules for what a good person is? So it's all of those conditions. But if you just be and just tune into who you are and just be honest with who you are and just be okay with it, you don't have to worry about doing anything to anybody or whether anybody likes you or not. It's all of that. People want to be liked. They don't want to feel like they're X'd out. They don't want to stand out alone. It's all of those things that we have been told to apply to our identity, to who we are. And so everybody's trying to hold up to this identity, this character, shaping our character. You toss out all of that, it doesn't even matter. It just doesn't even, that's how I feel. I mean, I'm glad when I eventually got to that place, because I used to care. I did. I used to care. but now I don't. It's so freeing because it's just people. That's what I'm always saying. I'm like, who cares? It's just people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just people. It doesn't matter. They're so busy dealing with themselves that even if they didn't like you, what would it matter? What does it take from you? It takes nothing. That's what people have to understand. What does it take from you if somebody says they don't like? They don't even know. We just get caught up in the energy of that idea.
Mm-hmm.
But it really doesn't. It takes nothing from me. I'm gonna breathe. I'm gonna be breathing. It's gonna be okay.
Right. Absolutely. So through this, kind of getting back to the birth thing. So the death thing, the other end, kind of, I suppose, if we're looking, and I just throw it out there as an idea because I don't really look at life in a linear way. Although I see that the collective is looking at it, birth to death, right? And that's a linear thing. Although I think it's rounded, and I think birth and death are pretty much, they're very similar, if not the same thing. And circling that, so with the idea of moving into matter, into these vehicles that we're in, these vessels, into this construct, what is it to move out of it into what we consider here just collectively the state of death? How do you see that? What is all that?
That's because that, well, because that is it's such a core of what I talk about, that I so don't like to throw that one out. I just so don't like to try to cram that one, because there's so much more to that idea. Again, I can say this, that the idea of death as we see death is a program. And I'm not talking about just going, oh yes, well, there's really no death, then but people leave their bodies, and then we say, well, there really is no death. Well, yes, in one way there isn't. Nothing dies, right?
Right.
Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, right? But it can,
right, from the energetics,
from one form to the other. And that's just it. What did we just say? Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but can be transformed from one form into the other. Okay, well, that somehow we do not apply that to the science of the body, and the fact that the body can actually be transformed from one form to the other without the shutoff. That's the space that I come from with a lot of what I talk about, because I've seen something else. And I think that there's going to be a day, I'm going to get back to more of that, but there's going to be a day when the idea of death as we know death to be is going to be a primitive concept.
So
you're
agree.
not talking transhumanism, right?
No, I'm not talking transhumanism. This is technology. People need to get that. This is a highly advanced technology, this body, and it can do a great many things, but we don't know how to turn people.
We lost the user's guide.
Yeah, exactly. It's not activated. And our world keeps us out there away from actually hacking ourselves or unlocking ourselves, but it's not turned on. And it can take any form. It's energy. It's pure energy. So I think the idea of death as we know it to be, which is, people end up going through this process and then they go to the light. And I always say that light just wipes your memory, and but people have this programming, again, which is where religion comes in. And even if it's not religion, I think we are so exposed to an environment where it's confirmed everywhere that this is going to happen. This is the challenge, why it's hard for people to picture a transformation, a life where you're actually just expanding into yourself, into a level of awareness that changes the very vibration of your being, of the molecules that make up this form. The world around you, what we're exposed to, reflects the impossibility of anything other than that particular death concept. And I think what I like to throw out to people is this: how do you know that there aren't people who exist right here that have broken that program? How do you know that? This is how we're programmed. We're programmed to believe that we know the whole world and everybody. This is the idea. We have no idea. All we have are what? Once again, pictures, images, videos, stuff we get told, the sensory report. We have no idea. The fact is, how many people are here, if anybody's even here.
I was just going to say that.
we have no idea other than what we're told, and it's reinforced every day. That's why the news has to be there. They got to keep reminding you of all the people that are dead and all the tragedies, so that the model of reality, you continue to hold a particular model of reality in place. And it's just reinforced.
It's like going to church every Sunday. Same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you know that there aren't people that are living outside of this spectrum of reality, this birth to death program? If we start realizing that everything that you think you've been, you know, and who you think you are is nothing but a series of programs that's been handed down from generation to generation to the point where it becomes part of our gene pool, the memory of that information, that history. So, and if that is the case, the history of that which is possible is also there. And and we can go into that idea of junk DNA and what they call junk DNA. I think a lot of that information is there and they didn't know what it was. And it's just waiting to be unlocked by you, the person the only being who really truly has access to an aspect of you. We think that we don't, but this whole thing is set up that there is a part of you that nobody can get to but you. I really see that. That you, no matter how it looks at, there people are hacking into and doing. There's a certain level there that when you are now coming to an awareness, nobody can get past there but you. So I do see that. I see that the idea of the world and reality is not what we think. I think we're just hooked on a perception that continues to be sold to us. But there are people, there are beings who have crossed that program. I rest my case.
So, with that in mind, what do you think of all the space propaganda that's happening? And space in itself, is it just another program?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I think that the universe, I think all the universes, the systems, I think they're just that. They're systems. They are
Other realms, perhaps.
Yes, I think I think there's multiple systems there. It's not a good or bad. It's just another it's just another aspect of experiencing. And I think the idea or even in our scientific discoveries, I think those scientific discoveries are, I think, limited to the simulation itself. This universe is simulation, and it's designed to accommodate a particular kind of life and life in a certain way, and all of what we think is within that life, and even extraterrestrials. I think they're within the context of our simulation. I think a lot of this is happening within the framework of a particular simulation that human beings are tied to. It is not the ultimate. When I remember when I realized that, I was like, oh my God. I was like, boy, this is so not what we think it is. The moon, the stars, the sun, all of it. We're in this gigantic
simulation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
can
so that's that.
I have crazy woo questions now, and this is just more conversational. As far as reality, our realm as it is being malleable through, say, ritual magic, for instance, or law of attraction or whatever, do you think it's programmable that we can expand the inner space within here? Like, did the moon landing, quote unquote, ritual create space in the minds of humans, which then we generate?
Yeah, I think that's the thing with all of this. It's so pliable. Everything is like so bendable. And I think so. I think everything is bendable. And because everything is truly possible, it all can be done. And I think that's what's happening. I think we create our own unique matrix within the matrix within the matrix, simulations and experiences within but yet you're still confined to a particular simulation. It's all happening within it. It's like realms within that particular construct.
Some might even call them timelines or dimensions or parallel dimensions. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just so many things going on in so many different layers of possibilities. Yes, and it's the freedom to see that.
Nothing is static. That's just
nothing is static.
Right.
There's nothing static. And I think to me that was one of the things too, is realizing there is nothing static. And I think it is so freeing. Once again, I say that to people. It is so freeing when you can be okay with stepping back and seeing like everything we've talked about and just freeing yourself to be okay with the fact that things are not so finite like you think. Like we don't have to fight over whether the earth is flat, round, or square. we don't have to do any of that. I personally don't care. I don't care if it's a triangle. I think
it doesn't matter what shape it is.
It doesn't matter. Again, we live in an ocean of potentials. And in one expression and experience, if we all decide it's flat, hey, we'll find a way to validate that. If it's round, we'll find a way to validate it.
Yep.
And you never know if a majority of people decide that it is flat, it may conform to it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. If we agree, whatever we agree to, then we will find a way we'll validate it by what you just said, by doing that.
This ties into the idea of the placebo effect, where you've got scientists doing experiments, getting the results they expect, but no one else can reproduce it because it's not sound. It's just that their consciousness made it happen.
Absolutely. The magician.
Yeah. And you've got all these people out there trying to validate, say, flat Earth, for instance. We're getting the results they expect. However, it may not be reality to the collective. Just his personal reality bubble shows that, because that's all that's malleable to him alone.
That's right. And and you get enough people, just like religion, to come in to agree to that, to go, you know what, that makes sense. Okay, so now you get enough people and they're on board with it. And again, life is about a series of stories. And in those stories, we have the journey and we experience and we enjoy the stories. And I think I'm not knocking the flat Earth people, but I'm saying that in itself, a person can see how it becomes a distraction, and one can get caught up in any kind of story whatsoever. And then you can't see anything else because you've got peripheral vision. Now this is all you can see, and you've got to keep going with that. It's the payoff. All stories have a payoff. And I always say to people, look at the stories in your own personal life, and then look at the payoff. What is the payoff for your misery right now? Where you think you're miserable, you think you're in lack, your finances, your love life. Look at it carefully and look at it truthfully. Own, without blame, just own where you are with it. And see that, and you can see what the payoff has been. Sometimes the payoff is being able to complain to other people and the response that you get. It could be people, being sick. Could be the sympathy you get from other people. Could it be in your childhood, a time in your life where the only time that you got attention was when you weren't well? This is how we're wired. We're wired. This is a crazy game of imprints and how we're wired and the things that we draw to ourselves because of the payoff that we get from it. To be without money, you want to start a business, can never seem to get that. But at the same time, deep down, you have a fear of starting the business because you're afraid that you may fail, or because somebody told you from your childhood that, you who do you think you are? So then you can't have money to do it, because then that may happen. So you have to stay in the safe zone of never having enough money to make that business begin. It is just the wildest thing to look at all of this.
Right, but if that is the frequency you're broadcasting in your aura, that's what you're going to attract.
Yes.
So having that mental, not mental clarity, but having that background program running all the time, I'm not worthy of having a business or this money or a loan or whatever, you're sending that even when you go to apply for a loan, you're sending that message to the people.
Absolutely.
You're not attracting it, you're actually creating it.
Right.
Yeah. But I think to look at why you're creating it, is a good part, because a lot of people don't know that they're afraid that they will succeed.
That is the shadow work that everyone has to do and refuses to,
Sonia, where do you what are your ideas on non-human entities? So that's a wide open. That can be,
I'm sorry, I missed that part. I heard human entities. I didn't hear the first part.
The non-human entities.
What about them?
What I just am wondering it's woo talk, and of course there's there's no real officials here. So
the question is, I know where she's going with this. It's like, what's your opinion of them as far as, okay, look at it this way: UFOs, non-military or non-military industrial UFO sightings and experiences. What is that? What do you think that is? Is that an internal thing, external?
I think it's combination. I think it's combination. I think it's internal also, and I think it's, when I say external, there's spaces there where
critters live.
Critters live. Other folks live that look different. I think it's all going on, and I think that our government obviously does their very best to curtail it, to make it not known. And I think for lots of reasons, obviously for reasons that is self-serving, for one, and also because they always feel that they need to be the one managing people, managing reality, and what we are supposed to perceive. And then they break it off in pieces, which is why we see movies go on. They start breaking you in. And they, of course, this breaking in process started a long time ago.
1947, actually.
Yeah, exactly. 1947 up through now. And so we're ready for certain things now. We're ready for certain experiences. And it's called gradualism, and we gradually accept certain things. And when these moments come, we'll gradually accept it too, because we've been exposed to it. Robots, AI, UFOs, those possibilities. It's all there now. We are in that space of those things beginning to normalize themselves in our reality.
Cool.
Okay.
All
right. So I'm like, am I dismissed now?
No. We asked questions of the chat too.
I only have one question from the chat, cool. So, and then we can be done, because it's almost 2 hours, and we know you have to go. So, Oswald Spengler, he asked, "Are you related to Aston Barrett, the bass player?"
Oh no, but any musician, I'm sure I'd be happy to be related to them. I love music.
I hear that.
No, I'm not actually.
Okay.
Nope.
Yeah, you were so awesome that no one had any questions.
I'm gonna run with that.
You got him silent.
I'm gonna run with that.
This was great, Sonia. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love listening to you.
Thank you. It was a great interview. I love it when I have an interview where the host can really have a conversation and ask questions that aren't generic. I so appreciate it, which is one reason I love Emily and Randy. I love those. So thank you so much for being great hosts and for asking these wonderful and stimulating questions, so we can really express some substance out there. So thank you so much.
Great. Well, thank you, and you're welcome. And I've got your links to your YouTube channel and your website in the show description. Do you have any other places where you'd like people to go to, or anything new you've got going on?
Actually, I am doing a 4-part webinar. It's for 30 days. It's called The Reprogramming Experiment. And people can go to therealsoniabarrett.com and click on events, under events, workshops, and go see what that's all about. But it's really kind of like what we talked about. We talked about so many things today, but it's people being able to move into a space of changing certain programs in their reality, but being able to first identify whether it be one thing in 30 days that you start to understand how you actually continue to shape that, and how you unshape that, how you program this. And this is work involved. This is not woo-woo work. This is, you're doing this yourself. I'm a strong believer in that. Nobody can do any of this for you. So anyways, do check it out. It's quite interesting.
Great. That's great. Well, I'd like to thank everyone who listened and was in the live chat tonight. And be sure to tune in next week when we have Niles Heckman, filmmaker Niles Heckman. He's going to be an interesting dude. And what else do I have? I think that's it. Nish, anything?
No, again, I'm just so grateful you came on, Sonia. Thank you to the chat. Everyone, I'm not in there, but my love goes out, and sweet dreams.
Strong. Yes.
Yes.
Be sure to give
Sweet dreams.
Be sure to give us a like if you like this show. And remember that thumbs down are negative karma. Good night.
Oh.